right. So today we are talking with Joshua Brummel on the Private Practice Elevation podcast. I'm so excited to have you on board. Thank you for being here and also for just
Yeah,
working through the joys of rescheduling with children who are sick and, well, really a whole family that was sick. So thank you.
100%. Unfortunately, sickness comes through a household one way or another. So
Yeah.
life moves around that as that moves through you guys. So
Yeah.
glad you're
Yeah.
healthy and excited to hear. Excited for today's conversation.
Yeah, me too. Before we kind of get into what we want to talk about, want to just hear a little bit about who you are, what you do, and give us a little bit of a backstory of how you got started doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, great question. So I'm the co-founder of Therapy Flow. We started out about 6-ish years ago as a done for you marketing agency, primarily running Facebook and Instagram ads, doing some SEO, web development, just kind of full digital services, but a big emphasis on paid ads for therapists. That has evolved. I'll tell briefly what it's evolved into, but really we got into the space both purposely and on accident. I have a co-founder, his name's Attilio. We started two different companies, both in the space. We were running general marketing agencies. We got referred to some counselors. Individually, I worked with a solo cash pay practice out of California. He worked with a group practice out of Texas. Those were kind of our first two clients in the space. And then it just kind of beget itself got to the point where we were like, we should go all in on counseling. We eventually met each other in some entrepreneurship groups, realized he was a phenomenal operator. I loved the marketing, the business development side of things. So kind of front office, back office. We merged our companies and went all in from there. I've got a pastoral ministry degree as my undergraduate degree. Realized about halfway through that degree that I didn't want to become a pastor, but entrepreneurship, marketing, some other things were capturing my interests, as well as behavioral health. So I used a bunch of my classes in college to go take the counseling classes and other things. So I've always had this eye on the counseling space. And
Yeah.
so when the opportunity arose, both accidentally and purposefully, to like serve this as the only industry we're in, kind of took it, never looked back. I love the space. I love working with counselors, and I love the impact that adjacently helping them get new clients through their marketing and through great businesses really has worked out well. So kind of present day, we run what we now call a done for you practice development program. We still implement a lot of great things like Google ads and Facebook ads for all of our counselors. We have a HIPAA compliant CRM that we build out and apply with all of our therapists as well. We'll talk more about why that's important on a tracking level and ROI level in just a second. And really at Therapy Flow, we're making the business side of running a therapy practice easy and simple across a lot of different sectors. So we work with group practices of all sizes. And then we have another solo program called MAPS for just those going from 0 to full caseload for the first time.
Awesome. And I had the honor of meeting you in Savannah at the Wise Practice Summit back in October. So that's kind of where our relationship started. And I must say, like, as I've looked at your resources, also listened to you speak at that summit too, I've just really been super impressed with just the resources and the support that you give your clients. And I just want to say that, like, yeah, like you're providing these done for you digital services, but you're also, it sounds like you're really educating people on marketing a private practice, giving them resources, really giving them support. I believe some coaching too, right? For your clients.
Yeah. Yeah. So most of what we do is inside of a 4-month practice, what we call growth sprint program. So we have a very specific kind of goal in place. We put together like a sprint practice manager that kind of manages the project, aka the growth of your practice. And then in a 4-month period, our team's providing all the technical help as well as the coaching and strategic support across a couple different sectors to move the practice forward. And then we kind of push you out on your own and say, hey, have fun managing where you've gotten to. Come back to us if you want to grow again. So well. Also at that conference, it was after hours, but they were still on the table. I did swipe one of your mugs, and it's probably my go-to coffee drinking mug at the moment at home. The
Awesome.
tall shape has been lovely. So
Everyone, I get that feedback from like everyone, like those mugs are the best mugs that I've ever used. So
yeah,
I've actually got one on my shelf here, got one that I use almost daily. But yeah, I get that feedback. So I'm excited that you enjoy the mug. I have to order a bunch more for some upcoming events for sure.
love it.
Awesome. Well, let's get into our topic. And so we are going to talk about paid ads, which I think
Yeah,
it's a big topic. I think it's also kind of a hot topic. You know, when I consult with a number of people, it
yeah,
seems like there's two types of people. There's usually more folks who are on the larger group practice, not large group practice, but maybe they're in that growth focus. They're like, oh
right.
yeah, I definitely do. I do ads. I do paid ads. And I talk to a lot of more solo practices, and you know, it seems like when people are more solo or just stepping into group, they're a little bit more apprehensive about stepping into paid ads. And so what I want to kind of learn and and gain from you is like, let's talk about the big picture of paid ads and kind of getting started, what to expect, and really kind of hand it over to you to kind of tell us where we need to begin so that we can all understand how we can use paid ads to really
Yeah.
get that growth going in private practice.
Yeah, definitely. I think most therapists are really aware that something like Google Ads exist out there. And they've heard that either lots of people run them with success or lots of people run them without success. And that's the conversation is how do we really get a return on investment if we do choose to run paid ads? Or how do we make sure that we don't run paid ads and we don't lose money if they're not going to work for us or be good for our situation? You know, the original paid ad, and at least still in modern era, was like print and TV and radio. And like, so paid ads have just evolved over the years. And right now they're continuing to evolve in terms of placements, platforms. So we talk a lot about Google, Facebook, and Instagram, kind of those two buckets or
Mm-hmm.
categories, but TikTok and Hulu and Pinterest and YouTube and a lot of other places are places you can also put paid ads. But I think the reason why Google ads specifically get pulled out is because of what's called user intent, which is just someone types, hey, therapist near me or EMDR near me or whatever it is.
Right.
And you can run an ad to those words. So you kind of get a high degree of certainty that the people that are clicking on the ads are people searching for therapy versus sometimes the other platforms. It's more of a crowded marketplace of all
Right.
process and all products. So I think when we just start the conversation on paid ads, I want to say two things. Those high intent ads are great, but they're now more expensive and the barrier to entry is higher than ever before because number one, more competition has entered into the place. More people are spending on paid ads, especially venture-backed therapy practice companies.
Yeah.
And the other side of the ad platforms, the ones that aren't search-based, but the Facebook and the Instagram ads, about 50% of the practices we work with run those as well with a lot of success. We just have to know how to get a return on investment for the strategy we're using in headed into 2024 here.
Right. So how do we get started with knowing how do we get started? I'll just
Yeah,
start there.
it's
Where
we
do we begin? And
we got to
I
take
also
it.
want to like preface this too that at Private Practice Elevation, we do not do paid ads. I learned kind of
Yeah.
quickly that I'm like, this is not for me. I don't want to spend people's money. And there's just too much riding on it. I'm going to focus on SEO and website design, so I'm also coming at this
Yeah.
like, in that sort of learner space of like, okay, where do we get
Oh,
started for this?
I'll share a quick story. That first cash pay therapist that I worked with, I ran a Facebook ad for him. We spent like $100. He got like 4 inquiries from it and one new client at like $200 a session. I'm like, wow, this is so good. I'm so good. This is so easy. And then after that, we continued to run paid ads for a little while. Nothing came of it. And then like 2 months into the process, he was talking to that client and it came up like, how did you find me? And we thought that he'd come from the paid ad based off of like attribution and stuff. He was like, oh, like this person referred me. And we're like, oh, so like that original ad didn't even work essentially. So that idea of like spending someone else's money, Therapy Flow has probably directly managed now more than $3.5 million plus in like paid advertising dollars, not
Yeah.
including what we've like consulted on or with. We
Right.
don't manage ad spend anymore. My stress levels are better for it. I've had a lot of sleepless nights over it. But
Yeah.
I think that sets the ground of the where do we start conversation, which
Mhm.
is what do we need to know about the money side of it? Because that's kind of what's initially in the line. Besides our time and our process to like do something like paid ads, our therapists, right? They don't want to lose money on the paid
Right.
ads. And that's fair. So typically, to answer a couple quick questions we get all the time. Number one is typically $500 to $600 a month is a good minimum starting budget. We hear all the time that sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. This is just the barrier to entry we have found most typical. The 80% of the time, that's a good starting point.
Mm.
Then, if we can get the ads to work at $500 to $600 a month, then we can scale the budget and continue to move up from there versus saying, hey, if we spend more, maybe that will get the ads to work. I think sometimes that's just like a broken tool that agencies or people try. Maybe if I spend more money, they'll work. We really want to make sure that the original $500 to $600 spent on Google ads is getting us new clients specifically. And that's a really good starting point on a budget level. And if you don't have that budget to risk, or you don't have that budget to initially like launch month over month, I would say that starting with paid ads might not be the best place for you.
Mhm.
Sometimes another platform like Facebook or Instagram, where you can get away with like $100 to $300 on a monthly basis, can be a better place.
Gotcha. Is that really one of like the just sort of deciding factors of like, am I ready to invest in paid advertising? Does it really come down to the budget? I mean, obviously you got to have the budget. Are there
Yeah.
other sort of factors that are kind of at play when you're like, I think it's time for you to invest?
Yeah. So I think there's two other immediate sort of like entry level factors. Number one, and this is in your camp, do we have a website that converts? Do
Hmm.
we have a website that converts? What I mean by this is lots of therapists have a website, but if your website isn't currently converting any of your organic traffic with a degree of success or history, it's not going to convert paid traffic because paid traffic is probably even colder or not coming from referral sources or other things. So it's less that do we have a beautiful website or do we have a whatever? There's lots of ugly websites that convert, right? But
Yeah.
does it convert? If so, great. If we run a Google ad to it, it will probably be successful. If the website isn't converting any traffic, either we have to do work on the website, we don't run Google ads, or you launch like a little mini landing page and you do your work just on a single page that you're running the ads to. And that can kind of be a stopgap from overhauling the entire website.
Yeah, that's a good idea because I'm sure some people are like, "Oh, great, my website sucks. I need to redesign the whole thing." But just
Yeah,
know you can be sending traffic to those, those specific landing pages that really capture
right.
people coming from those ads. That's a great idea.
100%. So it could be like, hey, I'm running an ad for EMDR therapy. I've got an EMDR service page on my website. Maybe we just make some changes. We update some language. We throw in a few more like call to action buttons and some of those things that we don't need maybe on a normal website that someone's spending a lot of time on. But for a Google ad, it could increase the overall conversion rate on it or something like that. So do we have a website? Is it converting traffic? That's a big category that we think about. And then the other thing with paid ads is have we successfully converted clients in general or at the rate that I'm currently trying to get? Because sometimes we see someone launch a Facebook ad or a Google ad and they're like, I'm charging this new cash pay rate, $200, but we haven't even converted our other organic referrals or
Mm,
Psychology Today referrals at that rate. So then we're trying to figure out, do these ads work? And does my sales process work at the same time? Which is
right.
also like, do my ads work and do my website work at the same time? Really, when we're launching ads, we want to evaluate the ads as a separate element to everything else going on.
Mm. That's really good. That's really good advice, because that comes up too with the work that we do with SEO,
Yep.
where people are like, well, do I redesign my website? Because like people aren't really converting on it, or, but I do need to get more traffic. I need to get more clients in. So do I invest in SEO? And I'm always like, if you can invest in a website redesign that's really going to improve everything all around, I say do that first, then
Yeah.
really focus in so that we can really understand those numbers and that investment for sure.
Yeah. And there's a little framework I always give to therapists. It's new, more, better. So it goes in that order. Something new, then we do more of that new thing, and then we make it better. So let's get a new website. Let's add more to the website and get more traffic on the website. And then let's make it better, prettier, X, Y, and Z. Same with Google Ads. Let's launch a Google ad, see if it works. Let's spend more on the Google ad. And then let's kind of improve the whole conversion process and then kind of rinse, cycle, repeat with that.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like really kind of the barrier to entry is really making sure that you've got the budget that you can invest in paid advertising. You've got a website that works, hopefully converts, because we don't want
Yeah.
to add in all these factors that we're then trying to track. So let's say you have those things in place, and you're kind of ready to start. Like, what are some of the things that people need to maybe expect from their first paid ad campaign? And yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say maybe we stick to Google Ads, but I'll leave that up to you. Like however you
Yeah.
want to
I
frame
mean,
this.
the first 3 to 7 days of any ad is typically what's called like a learning period or a data acquisition period. And what that means is depending on your budget, especially if you've never launched the ads before, you might not even expect a conversion in that first week or that first 3 days. Some variance there. But on the other end, I talked to some people, they're like, I've spent $2, $3, $4,000 and it's been 2, 3, 4 months and I haven't gotten any conversions yet. That's way too long to say. Typically an ad will produce its first conversion within the first week to 2 weeks, meaning someone clicked on the ad, they went to your website, they filled out the form, and they became a client from that ad specifically. If our sales process is working, we're following up. But we shouldn't have to wait even a month, much less multiple months. And
Yeah.
sometimes we hear that as someone works from an agent with an agency that hasn't done a lot of mental health or other things, and they're just kind of tinkering, putzing around, trying to figure it out for this counselor. I have been that person, if I'm being honest here. And then weeks turn into months and everyone's hands are up and they're like, I don't know. It's like, great. We can't just keep stringing this campaign along. So to zoom it in, 3 to 7 days is a great place to put a lot of pressure and say, great, I'm not going to change anything. It's not about tinkering with it every day for the first week, but did we get data? Did it work? Was there a good click-through rate? Some other technical things there. And there's a lot of just good general guides. We have some even for free on our website, other things just for some of those technical numbers. But I feel like for therapists, get into the hole is not knowing when they should expect a result.
Yeah, I've definitely spoken to those folks who've done ads for many months, and like I've spent so much money, and and it breaks my heart to kind of hear that, because it's like that should never happen. And I guess like my next question for you would be like, what are some of the things you have in place to make sure that that doesn't happen? Like, what are the things you're looking for, once we get into you're at 2-3 weeks into the first ad campaign? What are those things that you look for to say, hey, this is a success, or hey, we got to tweak something here?
Yeah. So if you're really struggling to get clients from any or all of your other assets, if you just like recreate what's going on and just turn on the ad, there's probably like a million little things, sort of death by 1,000 paper cuts in all of your different categories. So Google Ads, I'll just say it work best for those that are already having an easier time acquiring clients. And like it's really tough. We see some people like, we're getting all these clients from these other sources. We flip on Google Ads and they get 10, 20, 30 new clients in the first week of the ads going live. And it just, goes up and out from there.
Wow.
Those that it has just been a slog to bring in any clients for their solo or group practice, those are the times when it can take a lot of direct work, because there's just a bunch of little things going on. And I'll
Mhm.
share two big but little things in this category. Number one is, do we have our conversion processes tracked? And that's just a big category. Is, can we successfully say, hey, here's how much I spent on the ad. These are how many inquiries I directly got from just this ad. And here's directly how many new clients converted from the ads that I'm running. I can't confidently tell a therapist to go spend more on ads unless we have that level of tracking in place.
Yeah.
A lot of great practices track it adjacently. They ask their clients, hey, how did you hear about us? But we actually needed to set up some software systems specifically, which typically aren't the most fun for some of the therapists to implement. But once they're built once with Google Ads conversion tracking, what's called like a CRM for your marketing, and a couple other things, that can give us sort of this stable foundation to really scale ads on top of. So that's a really big must. And then next to it, if you're really struggling with your general conversion process, so your intake process, meaning we don't call clients back quickly, we don't have a good conversion ratio, we have a lot of fallout or follow through, those are all indications that, great, we can generate the most amount of inquiries in the world, but they're going to not successfully make it across the bridge into your service. They're going to fall through someplace. So we have to slow down and sort of like fill each hole along the way to make sure nothing's getting through, which sometimes is happening.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really solid advice, because those are some of those things that you don't always think about when you're just, especially in that sort of painful place of like, I just need more clients. I need more clients. I have to make
Yeah.
this thing sustainable. But you bring up some really good points about like, well, what else can you do before you even invest in ads to make sure that your process is solid? And tracking
Yeah.
is certainly one of those things. And really don't want people investing in anything if you're not going to track it, because you're not going to be able to make those improvements based on the numbers. And that's my favorite part about sort of the geeky side of like SEO and
Yeah.
tracking and numbers. Like, well, we did these things and you can see the numbers, and the numbers don't lie, whether it's good or bad. It's all information to get you
Right.
to that next level and to that next place.
Yeah, we just wrapped up one of the growth sprints with a practice. He was opening up his second location, needed more momentum than what he previously had to fill out his new sets of counselors. And at the end of the 4 months, after launching ads in the CRM, we helped him track essentially that he had about a 20 times return on investment. So every ad dollar he spent, he essentially got $20 back. And this becomes really important for saying, how do we calculate a return on investment when you run ads? So I can walk us all through a couple core numbers. Number one, what did we spend on the ads? Let's say we spent $1,000 on the ads. Number two is, how many conversions did we get? How many full inquiries? Let's say we got 100 inquiries from that $1,000. We're spending about $10 per lead or $10 per an inquiry, but $1,000, 100 inquiries. Let's say 50% of those or 50 of those became paying clients. Okay. Now all we have to do is calculate what is the lifetime value of our typical client. And if you need more help on this, Google, put it into ChatGPT and it will spit back a bunch of numbers with you. But it's just, how much do they spend per session? On average, how many sessions do they do with you? And let's say it's $100 a session. They do 1,200 sessions. We're at $1,200 lifetime value per client. So, 1,200 times 50 is essentially what we end up with as a return on investment from the ads. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah.
And so I was just going to say, one of the ways that we walk our practices to have success is we say, what is that lifetime value? And extrapolate it back. What can we afford to spend on the ads? Or maybe the ads are more profitable than we think they are, even though they're your most expensive source to get clients. It's the one place that you're constantly shoving dollars out the door. However, you're consistently getting dollars back in.
Right. One question that comes to mind for me is, for the group practice owner who's, in a new hire, comes on board. Okay, we're gonna do some ads to get them some clients. How do they determine that lifetime value if they don't? This is a new client, new therapist
Yeah.
in their business. Is there sort of a average that you all use or go off of, or average for the practice itself?
Yeah, I'd say the average would actually be dictated by the modality that's being taken place, or the type of therapy. People who do EMDR versus
Hmm.
general talk therapy
Yeah.
versus play therapy, all of those are probably going to have an average use when the therapy is being successful, and it's kind of this like bad counselor fit, they're going to drop off really fast or something awkward happens. Good counselor fit, they're going to go a certain amount of time and then
Yeah.
naturally taper off, as long as nothing came up. Like so, and then we want our clients to graduate. So like, when does that happen?
Hmm.
And so somewhere in there, they're going to offboard. I think a lot of times we see that anywhere from 12 to 24 sessions being really typical. That's that 3 to 6 month range a lot of times. But
Hmm.
therapists struggle with this because they're like, I have this client I've had for 10 years and this one
Right.
for 3.
Right.
We go with averages in this scenario unless we have lots and lots of data that we can crunch to get a more specific number from. And maybe you
Yeah.
can ask your therapist, if they're coming from another place, hey, what was your experience like there? How many sessions? Or
Yeah.
we can go off of what we know with our other service providers.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. It's just, things to think about before we invest.
Yeah.
Get your data in a row. I think you've certainly given us a lot to think about. Is there anything more that you want to say about, when we're talking about ROI for ads?
Yeah. I think, there's the whole technical conversation. What will technically make a Google ad flow for you or paid ad flow for you? This is a scenario where you're either going to have to do a lot of work personally, which will probably be worth it, or work with an agency that actually knows what they're doing, or a coaching company like ours, to make sure these ads get to the finish line in a really successful way. The level of details needed to be involved is just pretty high. It's similar to someone who wants to redo their website, right? It's like, you can definitely do it on your own, but you don't have to, and it can go a lot faster with someone else. So let's set the technical process aside. You're going to need to do work, get help, process it. But I just want to make a quick argument for paid ads and why we essentially build them for every practice that we work with as a growth vehicle for the practice. It's one of the few places that you can put $1 in and get $1 out that same week or that same month when done correctly. It's what I
Mhm.
call like a dial experience for your inquiry or your referral volume. So you want to develop things like SEO and maybe social media, your listing sites, your referral partners. That will really stabilize your practice. Something like Google Ads, if you want to grow and grow quickly, it can be fuel on the fire. It can be a dial to turn up referrals really
Yeah.
fast and really hard and get the growth out of it that you want. Think of someone like Shelby. She hired and filled out about 30 plus counselors in an 18-month time frame as a new group practice owner, starting with our team. And that worked really well for her. It's probably about 80% of her clients were coming from paid ads during that season of growth.
Mhm.
And so it's just that dial experience that if you slow down, you figure it out, and you take the time to say, hey, how can I get a return on investment, and dig into these pockets? It can really reward you with consistency and a ratio of inquiries that can put you on a growth curve for your practice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that, and that's certainly, it comes up so much with the people that I speak to and consult with as well, because they're like, do I do SEO or do I do paid ads? And I always say, if you have the opportunity and the budget to invest in ads while also thinking about the long term, because that's SEO is definitely a long term
Yeah.
strategy, takes a lot longer. You can
Right.
turn on that dial with ads while still addressing the long term, and you can turn back that dial as the SEO,
Yeah.
builds up.
For our first 6 years in the therapy space, or I should say our first 5 years in the therapy space, we actually didn't have a full website ourselves. We ran it to what we call like a landing page or funnel, and we built all of our own company off of either referrals or paid ads. And that worked really well for us. I wanted some extra diversity and stability in our own sales process. A little over a
Right.
year ago, I built a new website from scratch. We started SEO on it. And what was great is we get so many inquiries from our website now. I still spend on paid ads, but all of the spend that we do on paid ads is for growth and our like website kind of keeps the current rate of where our company is at stable. And
Right.
so when you have more tools in your toolbox, you have more inquiries, more flows coming into your practice, just like for my own company, it can just give you a wider berth to grow or to just be stable because you're not so worried about where's my next set of 20 clients coming from to fill my new counselor.
Right. Awesome. Well, this is awesome information, Joshua. I really appreciate you just kind of like laying it out. I'm
Yeah,
sure it's really helping people who are thinking about stepping into paid ads. Why don't you tell
definitely.
us a little bit more about where people can find you and Therapy Flow, get those great
Yeah.
resources that I mentioned, and if there's anything else that you want to share with folks?
100%. So mytherapyflow.com is the best place. Just Google Therapy Flow or type in mytherapyflow.com. That's going to be a place to learn more about our growth sprint or our MAPS program for solo and then group practice owners. That will also be a place where we have things like free guides on Facebook and Google Ads. A lot of technical help there. And then some additional resources like the 7 pillars to improving your psychology today, and a lot of other marketing content. So definitely great places to go. We also have a Facebook group you can join through there, again, just to get free resource. And I'll just give the invitation. If you have ads, if you're thinking about ads, if you're thinking about launching ads with or without our team, go into the Facebook group, post a comment, post a question, post, what you're hearing from your own agency, all of those things we're happy to answer because we really just want to make your marketing work and your practice, be easy and flowing smoothly. And some people do that, with us, and that's great. And it's such a rewarding pleasure when that happens.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Joshua, for being on. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.